hello to everyone in the chat. We're just waiting on a panel member at this point. Waiting for a panel member to join us and we'll get started. Thank you all for taking part in this conversation. Hang tight for a second. Let's see, BitCoinBrian. So for BitCoinBrian, I just sent the link again. Let's see. I wish I could tell who was in the chat. I can't see who's in the chat. Oh, Jessieville. What's up, Jessieville? In the building. We just waiting on the panel member, BitCoinBrian. Jessieville, if you want a link, let me know in the chat and I'll send you one. Junk Pal Video, what's good? I see you. Just waiting on a panel member at this point. Junk Pal Video and Jessieville, you guys are always welcome to join the panel. So just let me know if you want a link. Just put your email in the chat box, and I'll send you the link. I don't want to just put the link in the chat box because we had an issue with trolls on someone else's platform before, so I'm just more cognizant of that at this point. So just let me know and I'll email it to you. Just waiting on Brian Bourne. Let's see what's up with him. So as you can tell by the title, we're going to be talking about more modern interpretation of, oh, there we go. We got BitCoinBrian is in the building.
Yo, what's going on?
What's good, Brian?
I'm good. Can you hear me? Loud and clear?
Loud and clear. How am I coming in?
Man, you good, 100%.
All right, good. So today we're going to be talking about MGTOW and a modern interpretation of MGTOW and a more practical interpretation of MGTOW. As you've been seeing in the manosphere, in particular the Black manosphere, there's been a lot of discussions regarding, the dynamics between a man and a woman. And that brings up the topic of MGTOW, which had become very popular maybe about, 8 months, a year ago. It's still going strong, but you don't see as many topics particularly pertaining to MGTOW, but they still come up. But I think the MGTOW should be refocused. I think there's been some extreme forms of MGTOW. I don't think all of them are very practical. Consequently, I think MGTOW itself, the concept conceptually, is very applicable to most men. I think a lot of men are in fact MGTOW and may not actually be aware of it when you look at their actual practices in everyday life. Tell me, Brian, what's your current interpretation of MGTOW, and does any of that apply to you?
Yeah, I was one of the ones that was pretty much kind of MGTOW to a certain extent and didn't even know it. um, I just recently, maybe about 3 months ago, started dibbling and dabbling more into MGTOW. I'd seen it, but I didn't know exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I heard a red pill, blue pill. To be honest with you, I thought they was talking about the Matrix, just like the movie Matrix. I didn't. I thought they was talking about just like some type of a joke, or I really didn't know, to be honest with you. And so about 3 months ago, I really started to kind of see more about it. Start doing a little bit more research, and I was looking at videos, and I said to myself, "Damn, I took the red pill shit a long time ago and didn't even know it." So, and of course, I did backslide several times after that, man. But I did take it a long time ago, and my interpretation is, like I said, I kind of went my own way after a series of things that happened in my life, and 99% of it dealt with a woman, and it kind of opened my eyes to um, what I should be doing, my priorities, my role in life. And this was all before I knew about MGTOW. But um, now um, I'm more aware of it, and it's made me stronger in my thought process.
Agreed. I I first became aware of MGTOW some time ago. It was I kind of got into it. There was like a series of, like the YouTube algorithm. Um, it kind of when you watch a video on YouTube, then it kind of gives you video suggestions that may be loosely related to the video you currently viewed or the videos within your history.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of like what led me into. I'm not exactly sure what got me to the point of becoming aware of MGTOW or the MGTOW movement. Uh, but at some point, I stumbled across some videos, which then led me to the manosphere. And so this is what got me kind of focused on the actual terminology behind it. But I have been living a MGTOW, as they call MGTOW lifestyle, or an interpretation of MGTOW, an iteration of MGTOW, for quite some time. The difference is between me and what I feel a lot of people may have experienced is that, just because of where I grew up, um, growing up in Southern California, and you quickly realize um, that the quote unquote game is rigged. And a lot of times coming up, you're, especially like, say for instance, you're in high school and you're like, man, I can't wait till I get a car because I'll be able to do this, that, and the third, and all the women will, be into me. And then you get a vehicle and you're like, well, dang, I need my own place. Once I get my own place, then it's going to be this. And then you get your own place, like, well, then once I get a nice car and I start wearing nice clothes and all these things you do that you think will garner the attention of the opposite sex. And there really isn't a particular thing. Like, when you look at the decisions that I believe most women make, they aren't based in logic and reasoning. And a lot of times men try to apply logic and reasoning to their approaches to the opposite sex. And this is where they falter because their perspective is totally different from that of a woman. And as a man, you try to do certain things and you then become discouraged. And some people, in their discouragement, they try to do more and more things, and that leads into a blue pill or beta male mindset where you focus your energies into pursuing the opposite sex as opposed to developing self and prioritizing self. And so, because I had experienced rejection early on in life, it changed my perspective entirely in my formative years. And so once I became an actual man, or actually progressed into manhood, I didn't experience a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of men did. I don't have any children. I've never been married. I've never had an experience where a woman just took me to the cleaners. I've never had that experience because I had some stumbles early on with my encounters with women, and it gave me a different perspective on women. And I chose to focus on my own self-fulfillment as opposed to catering to a woman. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of went around the whole gambit. What I haven't done is I've never been married. I do have one son. I've never been put on child support, thank God. So I'm not in the system. But I did a few things even before I knew anything about a lot of these different things that's going on now. I just kind of did them, early on, and I made some decisions and made some um, I set myself up, to win pretty much, so to speak, with the cards that I was given and the cards that I was dealt. So, but yeah, but as far as females is concerned, yeah, I've been through the whole thing, man. I mean, I've been a super simp, man. I mean, so to speak. So I did, I got the nice car. I never really was a real flashy person as far as having jewelry, but I did, and still do have flashy cars and nice places to stay and live because I work hard, so I like to. It's more so of a personal thing that I work hard, so I want to see the fruits of my labor. But at the same time, of course, yes, I was doing it. Um, Most of it was for you know female attention, um, that I didn't feel that I could get if I was just a regular old Joe Schmo walking down the street wearing some Buster Browns. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I have been in that situation, and I pulled myself out of it years ago. And but it's a process, man. It's a process. It didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process for me, and I'm just speaking personally. It was a gradual process for me, and I'm still not there yet, 100%, but I'm getting there. I'm a whole lot farther than what I thought I would be, and I'm a whole lot farther than what a lot of my peers are at this point.
So from my perspective, I think that a lot of knowledge and wisdom isn't passed down from father to son. And there's two components to that, I believe. When you look at the actual modern household, right? You have two variants. You have a either single parent household or you have a dual parent household. So with the single parent household, most often the children are under the guardianship of the mother. So as you're growing up under the tutelage of a woman, obviously certain aspects of wisdom won't be instilled in you as a male child. From the perspective of a dual parent household like the one I grew up in, where both my mother and father were married and were present throughout the entirety of my childhood and upbringing. They're still married now to this day. There is a lot of wisdom that I felt I didn't get from my father in regards to the opposite sex, because my father came from the perspective of a man who was married. So obviously he would encourage me to find a woman and get married. This is what I was taught when I was growing up. Luckily, I was a rebellious youth, so uh, I dispelled uh, I dispelled that knowledge he tried to instill in me, and chose to go my quote unquote go my own way young. But I think that's what's sorely lacking, is that in a child's during a child's upbringing, there isn't that knowledge instilled in the man that said, hey, let's focus on your personal aspirations as opposed to focusing on a particular family structure and a family unit, which I do believe is important. But I believe in the current landscape in America, uh, I think a family structure should look a lot different than it does now. Part of that is revoking the idea of a legalized marriage. What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I grew up in a my both my parents were there and still are. My parents are still married, been married over 40 years. Um, but I came through it was more of a traditional type of situation, where I was it was the same way. It was kind of instilled in me. The the like I give you a prime example. My grandparents. My grandparents married 66 years. My grandfather just passed away this year in April. But my grandfather and my grandmother married 66 years. And this is on my mom's side. My grandparents had three kids, which one of them was my mother, my aunt, and my uncle. All of them are all married to this day. They all have children, and they've all been married over 40 years. And so when I was coming up, that was more so the thing. It's me and my brother. So that was the thing, is to, um, you know, go to school, get education, get a wife, and stay with your wife, and you have kids if you want, and you ride off into the sunset. I was the same way kind of as you. Um, in my spirit, in my deep down inside me, I always went against the grain when it came to that. My brother, not so much. He went to school, graduated, got a degree. He met his wife now in college. They became his college sweetheart. They got married, and now they're living together. They don't have any kids yet. That he's still pretty young, but he's going that route. Me myself, I decided to go a different route. I did go to college. Out of high school, I wanted to be a doctor, so I went to pre med for several years before getting burned out. So I started contracting, and that was years ago, man. That's what I do now. I contract, and I make more money than all of my doctor friends. I make more money than pretty much anybody I know. But I worked hard for it, and I knew it was a different way. And as far as women's concerned, I always kind of was not really so much a playboy, but women was you know. Can you hear me? Hello? Shit, I think we lost him. Can you hear me? I think we lost him, but maybe he'll come back. But women was like, my main one of my main goals in life was to always acquire and have women around me. It didn't have to be the same woman, just different women. So that was what I always dealt with. I think we lost him. Let me see. You back? You back with us, bro? All right, guys. I'm not sure who. Can y'all hear me? All right, guys. I'm not sure. I can host if you need. Okay. All right. All right. He said he was having some technical difficulties, guys. So just hold tight for a second.
Hey, Brian Bourne.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I had to completely reboot my system, man. Some type of
Yeah.
technical difficulty going on there. But anyways, continue what you were saying. I must have missed the last couple of things you said.
Yeah, but I was just saying, as far as the way I was brought up, man, and um, you know, my brother, he went along with the way we was brought up, more so to speak, like my parents being married and sticking together and getting a degree and getting married and things of that nature. My brother, he's married. He don't have any kids yet. He's still pretty young, but um, he took that route. I took a different route. Um, I took the route of just more so um, being an explorer, man. I mean, I first traveled out of the country in 2002 and 2003, and you know, I was always more so of a adventurous person, spontaneous person. You know, never really thought I would get married, even when I was young, man. Um, I did meet one female that kind of changed my mind a little bit, but she said I was moving too slow for her, so that that didn't work, and I'm glad it didn't. Honestly. So that's where, like I said, that's kind of where I am now, man. I'm not 100% MGTOW, of course, but I'm striving to be more of a self-reliant, self-resilient person. Just taking things one day at a time, and learning as the process goes.
Fair enough. So when I look at, again, going back to the various upbringings of people and the installation of marriage mindset, especially if you see a successful marriage. Now, in my parents' household, household, I feel that the marriage was successful. Parents are still married to this day. I believe they're happily married. And that's from the inside looking out. Being in that household and when I go visit them, I feel like my parents are happy together. But they also came from a different time. Like even when I look at how my mother, the way my mother acted towards my father is distinctly different from the women I encounter today. Uh, my mom is very feminine for one, and for two, she's submissive to my father. And even though growing up, and just being objective, a lot of decisions my father made, I can understand my mom being very upset. And I think that a lot of women today would have divorced my father had they been in a relationship with a man like him and he made the decisions that he made. My father, spent a lot of money, still does. Um, he's never jeopardized, the household to the point where they will be homeless or, anything like that. But he does like to spend a lot of money. My mom, was just more of a saver. And uh, there's just like those personality differences that, in today's spectrum, people divorce for those reasons. And so when we look at an actual interpretation of MGTOW or a relevance of MGTOW, it's for that very reason. We as men have a lot more to lose when we're dealing with women. You know, and we can even expound on it as far as the Me Too movement is concerned. But just from the dynamic between you and a woman that you are supposedly in a relationship with is a very, very, very risky situation. Granted, there are some men who meet a woman at various points in their life and they actually do take that step and become married. And maybe they're lucky. Maybe they're fortunate to have a wife that not trying to divorce them and not trying to take them for half of everything they have. And they're fortunate enough to be in a relationship that actually works or at least appears to work. But my problem is that every man I've ever talked to, besides my father, but every man I've talked to, and I ask them about their marriage, and I say, if you knew what you knew now, would you do it again? Every last one of them say no. Every last one of them. What about you? What's your experience with that? Have you talked to men who are married?
Yeah, yeah, and that has helped me out tremendously. A lot of things that happened in my life, man. I've been enough to not have to actually go through them, but to actually learn from others. You know, a lot of my friends that are married, they say, "Look, man, look, don't do it." You know what I'm saying? Don't fucking do it. Um, had a very, very close friend of mine, man. I went to college with this guy, man. Close friend of mine, man. He got married out of college and had 3 kids. His wife was a nice woman, man. You just to look at them on the outside looking in, you would think they were the perfect couple, the perfect family. They were always taking trips and having a good time. There's 3 beautiful daughters. And I got a phone call one day. Well, I knew he'd been going through a divorce. Um, just by just friends. And um I hadn't at that point I hadn't spoke to him in a few months. Because you know how it is. You're older now. We kind of, doing our own thing. I move around a lot in different places, and he's always stayed in the same city we grew up in. So I get a phone call one day and they say, "Hey man, so and so, he's dead. They found him, he killed him." I'm like, "What?" They said, "Yeah, man, he hung himself in his own closet." And dude, if you it's like I can't explain it, man. It's like take your closest friend that you know and just imagine, someone telling you that. You're like, "Oh, that can't y'all need to call the homicide division because something happened."
Yeah.
Because he didn't kill himself. Yeah, I know this guy. He would not do that. He had too much to live for. He got his kids. Come on, but his wife had took him so much, man, and taken him for so much money to the tune of about $130,000 and taking the house and taking and his daughters, and it was just so much on him, man, and it all hit him like within a couple of months. And his mind, I don't know if his mind, I would have thought that he had a much stronger mind than that, but um he actually did do it. He left a note and he left a video, and he did it, and he really did it, man, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So someone like that, man, and for something like that to take you down that road so far and so deep down that hole, it's like, man, come on, so things like that, man, I think about. And situations I've avoided, my friends tell me, "Look, man, don't do it, don't do it. It's other ways you can do this thing without having to go the same route I did." um and like I'm kind of like you. My parents, I was brought up in the household. Both my parents are still married. Been married over 40 years. And from what I understand, they, like I said, on the outside looking in, um, you know, everything's fine. I visit my parents all the time. We talk all the time on the phone and on FaceTime. Always gone a lot, but um, everything's going fine. But my father was more so very. Um, my mother was submissive. They grew up I grew up in the church, so they grew up in the more so the southern Pentecostal type of situation. where my mother, she was raised up in her home when she was young, that the man is the head of the household, and she was submissive, and whatever, whatever decisions he made, she rolled with it, no matter what she thought. And that's pretty much how they roll. Even to this day, that's pretty much how they roll. It's not as they're not as churchy as it used to be back in the day. Of course, we're in 2018. They're not religious as they used to be, but they're still very religious. And my mother, she pretty much abides by those teachings from her roots. So yeah, man, that's what I saw growing up. But and my dad, he's always taught me to be a provider. That was his thing, man. You need to provide. You need to. I'm raising you. I'm being hard on you, being tough on you, so you can be a provider, provide for your family, provide for yourself, provide for your wife. But I see a provider, that word provider is more so, I see it in a different light now. I used to see it as a good thing, but now not so much. Provider is more so like you're like a slave, or you like you kind of, it's like you have to do a certain thing, or else, like you got to provide or else, so I'm kind of moving in a different direction. I don't want to be labeled as just a provider, or labeled a provider. I want to be labeled as a man, doing grown man shit. You know what I mean?
I think at some point, I don't know why my mic is. How's my voice coming in?
Yeah, you good, man. I can hear you loud and clear on my end.
Okay, I'm trying to adjust my mic because I was getting some feedback. But at some point, uh, throughout the development of westernized culture and civilization, when we look at the United States, it's relatively in its infancy. I won't say in its infancy, maybe in its early adolescence, as far as development uh, and presence as a country. It's relatively new. When you look at the countries in Europe, some of the older civilizations that have existed and persisted throughout the millennia, through in China and India, uh, these countries have existed for quite some time. Respect that happy life in the chat. What's up? These countries have been around for quite some time, but the United States is relatively new. And this is my theory. I think that when we look at civilizations of antiquity, we look at even ancient Egypt. Let's take ancient Egypt for example, right? This is a civilization that persisted for maybe at least 10,000, maybe 15,000 years consecutively. And throughout that time, the civilization progressed, and there were some changes and adjustments and things of that nature. A lot of that history has been either altered or lost completely, so we don't really know exactly what were the things that occurred in an everyday culture. And there's stuff that is written down, but then there's things that are unwritten, that are just expected. Just the dialogue and the interactions, the dynamics between men and women is taken for granted, so that it may not necessarily be cataloged. You see what I'm saying? And so when we look at those things that allowed that culture to persist for that period of time, we have to look to that and say, you know what, even though this is a civilization of antiquity and we feel that we're so far advanced, the problem is that a lot of that knowledge was not transferred. None of that history wasn't transferred. So we don't know those things that they took. But we do know that for that period of time, that extensive period of time, whatever they were doing worked. There may have been obviously some things that we may not agree with by today's standards, but there are some things that probably worked. And I think one of the things that we'll notice in any civilization of antiquity is that there was a clear delineation between what was a man and what was a woman. There wasn't a whole lot of gray area. A man had certain roles and responsibilities, as did a woman in society. And these were clear cut. No rumor, no conjecture. It was established. There was an order. But now we've gotten to the point where We want to have these roles and responsibilities interchange, and there may be some crossover. There are things that men and women can both do effectively, but there's some things that men do better. There's some things that women do better. There's some things that a woman can do that a man totally can't, and vice versa. One of the problems that I find in the development of today's society is that there has been a valuation of a woman that has exceeded that of a man. Whenever a ship is sinking, women and children first. A hostage situation, let the women and children go. You hold the door for a woman, pull out a chair for a woman. You court a woman. All of these things subconsciously convey to a woman that they have a higher value than you as a man. In essence, we have created this monster we see today here in the United States. We can't blame the women. We got to look at ourselves. What the hell did we do to get to this point? And when we look at some of the things that not only that we did, but we continue to do to perpetuate this phenomenon, I won't even say a phenomenon, it's a syndrome at this point. We have to ask ourselves, how do we correct this ship? Because we're headed in the wrong direction. And we've been heading in the wrong direction for quite some time now. So we have to look at these things that some of these other civilizations have done, even though these are civilizations that we feel are antiquated and old-fashioned. Yo, but some of this stuff worked. It's the reason why these civilizations lasted as long as they did. Because I bet you at some point in these, I go back to ancient Egypt because we know that ancient Egypt existed for quite a long time. So we had a 10,000, 15,000 year span of civilization, not just people in existence, but an actual civilization where there was an actual consortium of people working together. So we have that existence of that civilization for that time period. I'm sure they've tried different things as far as culture is concerned. Because that's what culture is. It's a culmination of decisions that have been made by our ancestors. And the erroneous decision-making processes have been weeded out. So now we have a blueprint to follow. That's what culture is. So at some point, in order to get to the point that they were at, they had to make some mistakes. And they had to identify those mistakes and say, no, we can't do it this way. But see, because the United States is in its infancy, we're making all those, I should say adolescents, as I put it. We have to make all those mistakes all over again. Because I'm sure these mistakes have already been made thousands and thousands of years ago. They probably already tried all this stuff that we're doing now. You know, but now we're making these same mistakes all over again. And we're supposed to be the modernized and civilized civilization. And so I think this is the reason why we have this dynamic between men and women, is because in our quest as men to appeal to the sensibilities of women, to be held in high regard, to be admired by women, we put them on a pedestal. We prioritize them over ourselves, and we compromise our morals, ethics, and principles just for their attention. What do you think?
Yeah, you're exactly right, man. It's I think we're in a phase right now where we got to make it. we got to make a change, man. We have to make a change. You know, it's very hard to come out of something like this, in my opinion, because of the technology these days, the way the news moves and runs, the way the country is ran. I think nowadays it's very, very difficult to make these changes and move in a different direction. I think mainly with technology and more this humanism type situation we have going on, that it's going to be very, very hard to move um, into a different situation that would be positive from our way of thinking.
What do you mean when I don't mean to cut you off, but what do you mean when you say humanism? Explain that to me.
Well, as far as everyone on an even playing field, pretty much, so to speak.
Okay.
As far as hey, I'm a man, you're a woman, we're exactly the same. Whatever you can do, I can do. Whatever I can do, you can do. We're all the same. I have the same roles as you. You can have the same roles as me, and that's just the way it is. And if I even for one inkling of a second even think that it's different, then now I'm labeled as a certain thing, and now I got a label on me. And a lot of times these days, man, you get a label put on you, and it's a wrap, and I'm coming back. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially if you have some type of a name or some type of a prominence. I mean, all somebody got to do nowadays is Google search your ass, and it's a wrap. It is a wrap for you. It ain't no small little circle where only a certain amount of people only know what you said or what you did, or you may have made a mistake and said something, or you may have thought a certain way at a certain time and things may have changed. But they're always going to go back and say, "Oh no, hey, look, I went and looked you up online, and this is what you were saying, or this what happened." So that's like I said, the technology, man, the technology, and this, man, I'm into technology a lot, man. I know I keep my ear to the ground when it comes to technology, man. And it's not gonna get any. It's getting bad, man. It's getting bad. I mean, you have this thing called um, IA, artificial. I mean, AI rather, intelligence. And man, I tell you, it is crazy. It is crazy. I had the privilege of working with Tesla for about a year last year, and you're talking about some stuff out there, man, that the public haven't seen yet, that I've seen. It's ludicrous, man. When I tell you, it's it's almost like kind of like back in the day, in like the 20s and the 30s. If someone would have told you in the 20s and the 30s something that is something nowadays that we don't even think twice about, they would think it was witchcraft or sorcery. I mean, they couldn't even fathom it. So now, looking at things that's going to be happening in the next 10 years, 5 years, even 2 years. I mean, some people can't even fathom it. I mean, when it comes to this AI stuff, man, you know, um, I'll give you a prime example. Let me see, we're in 2018. By the year 2022, or maybe before that, you will be able to drive a vehicle, a car, from Los Angeles to New York and never have to touch the steering wheel. Never. You never have to touch the steering wheel. These autonomous vehicles, they're coming and they ain't going nowhere, bro. And that's how it's gonna be. And what people can't imagine that now. I mean, can you imagine driving from LA to New York across the country and never having to touch the steering wheel? No one, you can't imagine that. Wait a minute, I gotta at least touch the steering wheel to do something to maneuver. Or no, it ain't happening. They got something called a hyperloop. They're building the hyperloop. You'll be able to go from San Francisco to LA in like 45 minutes.
Heard about
That's
that.
yeah. They're building it right now. They setting stuff up. They got spaceships, literal spaceships that can take you from one part of the world to a different part of the world, the Earth, in hours. I mean, it's crazy. And along with that, like I said, the technology, um, they're more so putting us all in a box, man. It's kind of like if you think about ants. If you think about ants, you don't really think about male ants or female ants. They're all fucking ants, man. They don't give a damn about if you a male ant or a female ant. You just a fucking ant, and that's it. You know, you all worker ants. That's it. You just working. You just another number. If you're not in the who's who, if you don't have some type of you haven't set yourself up, then you're just gonna get lost in the sauce. You know, that's just, and like I said, that's just my, just from me on my personal experience and things that I've seen throughout my life, man. And I think we're all here put on this earth for a purpose, man. We're all special, but they're slowly but surely trying to take that away from us. You know.
Well, I think that you look at the advent of automation and the implications on modern society, I think that the delineations, the differences between men and women will become more apparent as the marketplace becomes more competitive. Because automation will eliminate the need for certain aspects of human labor. And so then it become a point of, well, how efficient are you? Because there will be limited positions available for organic personnel. So these positions then become based on, well, I only have so many positions to fill, and I have a wide array of applicants. Who's the best applicant? Because not everyone is going to have a job. That's just the fact of the matter. We'll get to the point where, you have to really evaluate this. When you're talking about automated vehicles, understand the implications for that. A large part of what occupies the road today are commercial trucks. We have a train system that carries a lot of the heavy freight, but then from those freight hubs, you have a fleets and fleets and fleets of trucks that transport those materials to warehouses and to specific locations, maybe even work sites, construction sites. And it's a very expensive proposition when you think about all the fuel costs involved with transporting those goods and the driver himself. So now if you're able to eliminate that driver, that's even additional savings in the hands of those fleet owners and those transportation companies. So that'd be a lot of jobs eliminated right there. I believe most of the truck drivers are male anyway, but again, once you eliminate those jobs from those truck drivers, then those truck drivers again will have to start looking for jobs. So that's even more competition in the marketplace. Warehouse forklifts. I'd imagine that there would be some trickle down effect of automated technology into forklifts. I used to work in a warehouse, when I was younger, and I know all it's dangerous when you have a human behind a forklift because you have issues of fatigue and visibility. When you're operating a forklift, for instance, and you're carrying a load in front of you, you raise the load off the ground, and then it obscures your view in front of you. So then you drive the forklift backwards. And so as you know, driving a vehicle backwards is a lot more difficult than driving a vehicle forward. And to top that off, the forklifts, I don't know how many people have ever driven a forklift, but a forklift, it steers from the back wheels. The front wheels are fixed because that's where the load is carried. So the back wheels actually steer. And it gives you additional maneuverability, but it also destabilizes that forklift if you're going too fast. So if you're going forward, you can tip it over. There's a lot of things that you have to think about when you're driving that forklift, especially with a load on you. And so it can be dangerous. And I've seen accidents in a warehouse where somebody actually lost their life because of human error. And so you can now eliminate that liability. Not only will you save costs on personnel, but you'll save costs on potential lawsuits, and you'll save costs on decreasing productivity related to humans. And so those are additional jobs lost. And then you have to look at, data centers, call centers. A lot of jobs will be lost in automation, which will require people to have even greater competition for the remaining jobs that require actual human personnel. So then it'll be an issue of who's the best applicant. Because a lot of positions in the workforce, they just need a body. Because there's jobs out there that people they're looking for a applicant, but people are not applying for these jobs, or if they apply for it, they're not really qualified. Now you're going to have an overabundance of qualified individuals competing for a limited number of jobs. And then we'll start to see even more competition amongst men and women. And because let's just be honest, certain tasks men are more capable of doing just because of our physicality. And so I think that will contribute to women being more receptive and being more logical in their approaches to men, because as of now, a lot of women are under the impression that, hey, I don't need a man. I have my own source of income. I can do everything a man could do, even better. I could just find a man and get pregnant. I don't need the man to help me raise the child because the state is in my corner. Take that child's father to court, get a settlement, or if I'm married, I get a divorce, I get child support and alimony and possibly a settlement. I had a friend who recently got divorced to a woman he dedicated everything to. His life revolved around hers. I don't want to go into details because I want his situation to kind of remain confidential. But needless to say, this woman took this man she even took half of his 401k. Can you believe that? This man worked basically his entire adult life towards his 401k, only to have a woman that he was married to come and take it from him. And see, this is what I believe happened to your friend, because he was in a situation where he was married to a woman who he dedicated everything to. Is not only the woman he was with, but to the children he had with that woman. And then we have to understand that women began planning and provisioning for divorce long before the divorce even occurs, long before that man in that relationship is aware of the fact that the woman wants to divorce him. So she's already putting things in motion, already setting things up, already probably has a new man. So now she has resentment for the current man that she's with. That's how women are. If they get a new man, they're resentful of the man that they're trying to get rid of. So then what she does is she probably going to tell her daughter different things, or the children. I think he said he had two daughters, but she's going to tell the children in that family, hey, your dad is, he's not good. He treats me bad, blah, blah, blah. He's a no good man. So he's telling them stuff to get the children prepared for the eventual divorce. So that way the children already pick sides. 9 times out of 10, the woman in the relationship is going to be more lenient towards the children. So the children are going to favor the mother anyway, because the father most of the times in a relationship is a disciplinarian. So now you have the children choosing sides. They're choosing to be with the mother, choosing to focus their affections on the mother as opposed to the father. And in your particular instance, in your friend's instance, the husband. And so now not only is he being alienated from his wife, his own children are alien to him as well. So can you imagine that as a man, a woman that you've been married to has poisoned and indoctrinated your children to be against you? So this is the reason why he did what he did. It's not just because of that woman. It's because of what that woman did to those children. She put her children against them. I don't even know this man, but I know that's what she did because I know how women operate. Because women don't think about the long-term implications of their short-term decisions. So they will compromise not only the man that they're with, but they'll compromise those children in order to get even with the man. Because a lot of times women will gas themselves up, and so that way they can deal with the emotions that arise from doing somebody so wrong. So they'll like, they'll rationalize what they're doing, and that's how they're able to cope with being so evil. This a lot of guys don't realize. The woman that you married is not the woman you're going to divorce. So they're looking at the woman that they're married to, and they're like, oh, there's no way she'll do this to me. No way my wife would ever treat me like those other women treated the men that they were with. But history has shown what women are capable of, especially in today's society, in American society, in westernized civilization and culture, because we permitted so many activities. We have, in essence, promoted them subconsciously. It's the normal course of action. You get married, you're not happy with your marriage, you get divorced. That's what's been indoctrinated into the woman in this country. And then when you get divorced, you take what's coming to you. Take the car, you take the house, you take the half of the 401k, you take the money out of the savings account. You run up the credit card bills and leave him with the bill. That's what's expected of. And then, well, I'm not going to even go into that. Well, what do you think about that so far, Brian? I know I said a lot.
Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, it's it, it you know, is you really it's really good to have someone, man, another man there. That's why I like MGTOW and I like the platforms that these guys put up, because if only my friend, man, if I could have, we always say in hindsight, but if I could have got to him, or if he would have been able to, listen to a few of these things and learn and change his mindset and avoid from having his mind go down in that deep hole, to where you get to a point where you feel like there's no return. Maybe things would have been different. But you're exactly right, man. I really think a lot of these cats that I've been listening to, yourself, a lot of the other guys that I watch and listen to online, and it's helping me, man. It's helping me out tremendously. Like I said, I've been, so to speak, out of the matrix mentally for a while, but I didn't even know it. I didn't even know I was. And seeing these things and reading these things, and now it's kind of putting it more into perspective, and it's allowing me to sharpen, my mindset and the way I think. I'm more sharp now than I ever was before. And I'm not there yet 100%, of course, but it's a process, and I'm getting there, man. But you're exactly right.
This brings us to the actual topic at hand now. An actual practical application of MGTOW, men going their own way, for the evolutionary man. And I say evolutionary because we as men have to evolve from our former way of thinking. Again, I say that my father didn't instill in me certain things that I think I need to know in today's society. Now, the knowledge he instilled to me about the dynamics between men and women might have been applicable to the time frame that he grew up in. But a lot of these things don't apply now because there are certain mechanisms in place provided by Uncle Sam that compel women to do certain things. So with that being said, you as a man have to maneuver differently. Some of the earlier iterations of MGTOW were very extreme. A lot of times they involved avoiding women entirely, or just using women for certain sexual things, and limiting contact. I think that's very extreme, and it may be easier for somebody who's either had zero contact with women in their lifespan, or have had a lot of contact with women in their lifespan, and they're able to they're able to stave off those urges. But for most men, it's not very practical. I think there needs to be a more practical approach to going your own way. I think that men should actually, there should be some interactions with women. I think there just needs to be more discretion. That's the key. And what I mean by discretion is that there are good women out there. Let's make no mistake about it. To say otherwise is just not logical. That's not reasonable. And we as men have to be logical, or else we just end up just like women are. So using our logical mindset, we understand that there are quality women out there. Now, just because there's quality women out there doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get married to them. That's the difference, at least not legally. We have to adjust the way we interact with women. We have to adjust the actual end goal with an interaction with women. That end goal is no longer going down to the courthouse and getting that document. That's not the end goal anymore. The end goal is an interaction that's safe and that provides for the provisions we as men have accumulated in our lifespans. Because that's what we do as men. We are provisioners for the future. Whereas you meet a woman, she hasn't provisioned for the future. She's provisioned for the immediate now. That's why when they come to you, they're looking for you to have provisioned and you to be their safety net. Now, and some time ago, 50, 60, 70 years ago and beyond, women still expected you as the man to provision for the future. But the women of the past submitted to the man. That's the distinct difference. Women now look for a partnership. They want to be considered equals in the relationship. Now we see what the effect of that is on a grander scale, with a male and female relationship being a microcosm of democracy. Democracy never get anything done because the two sides are always at odds with each other. You have one perspective, then you have another perspective. You have a liberal perspective, you have a conservative perspective, and they always clash. That's the concept of bureaucracy. It slows things down. But if there's a supreme leader, as in a monarchy, you have a king, one king with absolute power. Maybe he has some consults, some advisors. But the decision ultimately rests with that supreme ruler. Now, if you got a bad supreme ruler, then your country's going to be in shit. That's why a woman is tasked with choosing a good man. And when a woman chooses a good man, or let's say a woman chooses a bad man, it's not your place as a man to side with her for making a bad choice. She made that bad choice. So when she starts complaining about the man that she's with, well, it was the decision you made. Don't act like it's the man's fault for the position that you as a woman are in. It's your fault for picking him. Not only did you pick him, in your quest to find that man that you're with that makes you unhappy, you decline a lot of eligible men in the process. This is what people fail to realize. Not the men that you're with, but the men you turn down. Men of merit, men of worth. And so when we look at this mindset of these women who make these decisions, we have to evaluate everything else the woman says. She makes poor decisions in men. What other poor decisions does she make? And how many people buy into this? They buy into that narrative that women say. And so every subsequent man that comes after that is constantly trying to prove himself. So a more purposeful interpretation or application of MGTOW is that your interactions with women have more discretion. You pick and choose the women you interact with, even those women that you interact with on a casual basis. I'm talking about those friends with benefits, those one-night stands, those cuddle buddies, whatever name you want to call them. You even have to have discretion with them in this day and age, because even a woman who's casually involved with you can cause you to part ways with your finances and resources. So I think it's not practical for a man to be completely abstinent or just get prostitutes every once in a while. You just have to be more cautious about the women that you interact with. I think that's the solution, and I think that's the best application of MGTOW now. And how you're able to be more selective with women is that you limit your time that you have available to interact with women. How do you limit your time? By focusing your energies on something other than women. I know it's hard, but if you're about your business, right, you're not going to have time for low quality women. Your time is going to be so limited. You're going to say, wait a minute. I only got this amount of time. I got to actually make it worth my while. Then you elevate the echelon of women that you choose to spend time with naturally. Certain things you won't tolerate naturally. That's what MGTOW means to me. Self first, women last. That's MGTOW. It's not exclude women from the equation. No. Part of being a man is your interactions with women. The difference is interactions with women don't define your manhood. That's where the confusion comes in. It's not practical to choose not to interact with women. That's not practical. Just be more cognizant about it. What do you think, Brian?
Dude, I feel the same way. And that's pretty much what I've been kind of transitioning to over the past, I would say, 6 to 8 months is transitioning into that and that mind frame and that mindset. I used to be the opposite, but now mainly even more within the past possibly 3 months, I've been more so along the lines of what you spoke about. I don't give, my time is spent for myself, man. I limit my interactions with females. Even my friends, even my female friends, I've limited. Like I said, I'm not 100% there. I don't have a lot of friends, but I do have a substantial. I have a certain amount of female friends that I've always had over the several years. And I'll give you a prime example of what you said about even females that you speak to on a friend level or just a platonic situation. They can bring you down as well. I have several friends. All of my friends know that, I'm not gonna say they know my finances 100%, but they know my lifestyle. I'll put it to you like that. They know my lifestyle. They don't know exactly how much money I have, but they know my lifestyle. So here recently, I'm talking about within the past week, I've had 3 different separate females that I know that none of them know each other, but they've all come to me with financial hardships.
Oh,
yeah, they've all come with financial hardships.
mm-hmm.
And one of my friends, she's buying a house, of $300-something thousand house, and she asked me for some of the money to help her get this house. And I was like, nah. I said no. And she got upset, and and another friend of mine, she just moved. She's making a transition, moving from one city to asked me for some money. I'm like, you right? Come on, man. Really? Are you serious? You really want to call and ask me for this money? And I'm just like, we cool, but we ain't that cool. I've been knowing you for years. We cool like that, but I'm not about to give you $4,000. I'm sorry. it ain't about to happen.
But why do you think they asked you that? Let me listen. See, she wouldn't have asked, or neither one of those women would have asked if they thought that there wasn't a possibility that they would actually get it. Think about that for a second. Now, why would they think there's a possibility that we'll get it? Because either they've seen an example of somebody who's been successful in such a request before, or they themselves have been successful in such a request before. But go ahead.
Yeah, they may have seen someone, or like I said, they know that I'm a single guy. I ain't getting married. I ain't nowhere near marriage. 9 times out of 10, when they call me, I answer the phone because you know that's just what I answer the phone when people call. They know that I'm a very um they don't know that I'm generous, but they can imagine that they don't know that I'm generous because I haven't given them anything, but they know that I have a generous spirit. They can sense in my spirit, in this with their spirit, in my spirit, that I'm a real easygoing guy, very lighthearted, very, that's just been my persona, since I've been, since the way I was brought up, man. So I guess they figured they give it a go, give it a go, give it a try. Maybe I say yeah, maybe I'll say no, but they gotta ask. They know I got money, or they think I got money rather. Well, they do know because they see my lifestyle, but or they know me from previous situations, but seeing me or going out with me. And prime example, the one female that I know, me and her went out when I was in Vegas, and she pretty much know how I roll. Well, I don't roll like that anymore, but how I used to roll, and she's seen me spend 4,000 one night before on bullshit. So I guess she figured, and that's been a couple of years ago, but I guess she figured, well, hey, I'm in this situation. Maybe, I'm sure I'm not the only one. She probably got a whole list, motherfuckers she calling. So I was just on that list that she can get a little something from. And so that's what I'm thinking. It's something they've seen, and it's not the first time it's happened. It happens a lot. Um, even with my male friends. I got a friend of mine now. He asked for some money. It's like I'm a human bank or something. I don't know, but everyone want to call asking for money. But a buddy of mine, he called asking for some money, and I just told him. I told him no. He got upset with me, and I'm sorry, man. I just at this point in the game, I help out, but when you just being over the top with it, no, it ain't gonna happen like that, man. And that's just my way I'm thinking, man. It just ain't happening.
Well, I think like as a I shouldn't be asking you, hey Brian, I need some money for this. I should be coming like, hey Brian, I just found this great opportunity that we both can invest in. I have X amount of money to invest in this project, and you have X amount of, and maybe you can invest X amount of money into this project as well. Are you interested? Now, that's the type of conversation that a true friend is going to have with you. Because as a man, we know that, well, as a man, you know that if a man is asking you for money, 9 times out of 10, he doesn't really need it. It's usually something that he wants because he doesn't want to give up a comfort that he has. Like, say, for instance, for me, let's just say, for instance, whatever, that I ran into hard times and I found myself unable to pay my bills and I might be homeless or something like that, right? I know that as a man, I can use my ingenuity to make it, right? I could sleep in my car. I could go to the gym every morning to take a shower in the evening at the gym. I can, brush my teeth, to get my hair done, get dressed. I can do all that stuff while living in my car till I got myself back together to where I was able to get my own place again. You know, those are things that I can do. I wouldn't have to resort to asking somebody, "Hey, I need some money from you." And as a man, we always can do that. We know that we can do that. We know what we as men are capable of. Now, women, on the other hand, that may not be necessarily be in their vocabulary or in their, you know, even in their mind at all. But we as men know that we can make sacrifices to survive without being a burden to our circle of friends. Personally, I've never asked anybody for any money. That's just not something that I do, ever. I mean, it's just not necessary. Like I said, I could do without. You know, if I don't have the money for it, just because you've done well for yourself doesn't mean that you're an ATM. Frogbot said in the chat, he said, funny how women claim to be strong and independent, but are dependent when you're needed. So true. So true.
Yeah. And the thing about that, another thing about it as well is, you know, we grown men. You know, we grown men. I mean, I'm in my 40s, lower 40s, man. I mean, come on. I mean, you didn't had time. You know what I'm saying? At my age, you've had time to put something away, do something, make yourself go through enough things in life to figure, you know, it ain't going down like that. You know, you've had enough experience to, you know, you've had situations. I'll give you a prime example. I went to, this was back in 2004. Back in 2004, I was making very good money. I mean, when I tell you very good money, just imagine 2004, I was making super good money. And I decided I'm going to go to Europe again. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to go to Europe. So I pick up one day, tell my job that I was working. At the time, I was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I pick up and I say, you know what? I'm going to go overseas. So I go to Germany. I go to Amsterdam and Leiden and Hague and Rotterdam and Belgium and England. I go over there for 12 days. I spend all my money because in my mind at that time, I said, you know what? All my money, I can go back to work. And at the time I was getting paid every week. So I can go back to work. In 2 weeks, in 2.5 weeks, I got $7,000 back in my pocket again. $8,000 back in my pocket again. So I'm good. I'm straight. So I go overseas and go stupid. When I tell you go stupid, I went stupid. And I came back. The day I got back, get to my apartment, I called my coworker. I said, hey man, look, I'm back. I had a good time. See y'all at work tomorrow. And my coworker, he said, oh, you didn't hear what happened while you was gone. I said, nah, what are you talking about? You know, and back then in 2004, it's a little bit different with the technology, with the cell phones these days.
Yeah.
I cut my cell phone off back then. But anyway, I said, no, I didn't hear about what happened. He said, man, we lost the contract. I said, what? He said, yeah, man, we lost the contract. Bro, you ever get that feeling where your throat sink into your stomach? Dude, I was like, I lost my breath, man. I said, what? Bro, I had $600 to my name. $600. And you know what I had to do? I called my mama. I said, mama, help. Send me some money. I got to get back. I got to get back down south, mom. So, but I'm gonna tell you what happened though. My mom sent me some money, and I get in my vehicle and I'm driving, and I drive from New Mexico and I get to Texas. I get to Texas, I get a phone call from one of my buddies that I was working with in New Mexico. He said, "Hey man, we got some work in Texas." So I stopped in Texas, and I never even got home. I called my mom and told her, "Thanks, mom. I'm seeing this money back. I'm good now. I'm back on my feet. I'm straight." Because a lot of times back then, when I had contract jobs, they give you a sign-on bonus. So, and they give you the money cash. That's the way it used to be. So they gave me some money, sent the money back to my mom, and that was back in 2004. And from that moment to this one here, I said to myself, I'm not gonna be in that situation again. Never again. It ain't gonna happen. I'm too grown. I was raised different. I'm a grown ass man. Ain't no way no grown ass fucking man should be calling his mama and he in his 20s asking for money. And damn sure ain't gonna call. I'm in my 40s. I damn sure don't call my mom now asking for no money. I'm supposed to be taking care of my mom. I'm supposed to be handling her business and her accounts and paying for her shit. You know. So that like I said, just in our old and as you get older, you either see situations or you go through situations, and maybe someone hearing this and listening to this, it'll help them to where they won't even have to go to that situation. They can say to themselves, you know what, man, you know what, hey, I heard what he said. I'm gonna start saving my motherfucking money, man. I ain't gonna fucking ball out this weekend. I'm saving that shit. Because there's so many people that live paycheck to paycheck, and I know you kind of get off the subject, but
No, that is the subject. Keep going. That's the subject.
yeah, but just us as men, we got to step up our game, man. And I like, and now I don't take no fucking shit from no woman. Woman talking to me a weird kind of way, I'm out. I'm sorry, it ain't even a question. I'm out. You know, just here recently, man, I was approached by a childhood friend. I had a crush on this girl when I was in high school, and just here recently, she, kind of came back around, and we started kind of talking a little bit, and everything was cool. She was a nice chick, and everything was going out, hanging out every once in a while when I was back in the city or whatever. And me and her got into a little argument, and she called me a bitch. I said, "Oh, oh, really?" I said, "Okay, okay." So I said, "That's it." I said, "I'm done." "What do you mean?" "I'm sorry." No. I'm good. I've been knowing you all these years, and everything's been, whatever. But nah, I'm good. No, you ain't going. I ain't no. I don't care if it's a slip of the tongue. I don't care. That ain't how I roll. So I let her go, man. I cut her off, and I had to end up. And one thing that I learned, man, that we got to do as men, when you done with a woman, you got to be done with 100%, man, because they'll come back.
Yes, they will.
They're gonna come back around. They're gonna figure out a way to get you. You know, she had my phone number. She had I got two phones. She got both my phone numbers. She had, of course, my WhatsApp. She had my Facebook, and she knew my family. She's the best friend of my cousin. So I cut off from my phones. And then she hit me on Facebook. I cut off my Facebook. Then she started with my cousin. You know, because at that point I think she knew that it was pretty much a wrap. So she started calling my cousin and and talking down about to my cousin about me, just all kind of weird stuff, man. Just because I cut off, I don't want to talk to her no more, man. So when you cut these women off, man, you got to cut them off 100%. Don't even leave a crack, because they'll try to come back in and they'll try to hit you where it hurts. She knew me and her was dumb, so she tried to go and try to pit my family against me. I'm like, we didn't even in a relationship, man. You wasn't even. Of course, I smashed a few times, but that don't make us that don't make us an object. Come on, 2018, man.
We got let's see, Carly Ellis. She says, "Mama boy, LOL. Texas to the rescue." I lived in Texas for a little bit, about 7 years. I was in Houston, then I lived in El Paso for about a year and a half. She says, "Got to enforce boundaries." Yep, we only try because most men is weak and needy. This is very true. I can't argue with her on that because, again, what we as men permit, we promote. So if we permit certain certain behavioral characteristics from a woman in a relationship, then we, in essence, promote those behavioral characteristics. So we have to set finite boundaries, and stick to those boundaries. I think that's the actual key. And for those of you just tuning in, Carly, we're basically discussing the practical applications of MGTOW for the evolutionary man. And basically, we're just revising uh, some of the bullet points for MGTOW and basically elucidating applications for men that are actually livable. It's almost like a diet. I'll put it to you like this, Brian. Here's a good analogy. You're taking a shower, get out the shower one day, you look in the mirror, and you're like, man, I don't like the way my body looks. I need to go on a diet. So you start doing some research, looking up Atkins diet, looking up paleo diet, looking up what's that new diet that they're talking about? The I don't know, the one where you have a lot of high fat foods. I forgot what it's called, but anyways, all these different types of diets, and you find a diet that you like. You're like, okay, I kind of like this diet. It has some of the foods I like. I think I can fool with this diet. But then you get, just when you get ready to start this diet, you look on your internet search, and here goes another diet. Oh, this is the new hottest diet, guaranteed to lose X amount of weight in 30 days. This is like the biggest craze, and you're like, man, that'd be perfect because I'm getting ready to go to Vegas, so I'll be ready. Keto diet, that's what it's called, ketogenic.
Yeah, ketogenic.
Diet. Thank you for that, Carly Ellison. Ketogenic diet. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna try this ketogenic diet. I'm going all in. So you get into that diet, and you start to see the weight peel off. You feel great. You're looking great. But then you find, a month down the line, it's like I'm doing this diet, but I don't like it, man. It's like I've compromised far too much. Now life is no longer enjoyable. A lot of the joys I got from life revolved around some of the foods that I ate. Now I'm the party pooper. When I get together with my circle of friends, I'm the one ordering the weirdo cuisine. I'm the one that, we can't go to this restaurant because I'm on a special diet. Oh, I can't eat that because I'm on a special diet. Now nobody wants to hang around you. You're annoying. Not only that, you don't even like the diet you're on either. It's not something that can be maintained. A lot of these diets, this is the reason why a lot of diets fail. Because most diets are so extreme, you can't maintain them. They're not very practical. That's why you emphasize a lifestyle change, not a diet, not some type of exercise regimen. Because you have an extreme exercise regimen, you're doing some extreme CrossFit, and you've never worked out before a day in your life. It's too extreme. You can't just jump from one end of the spectrum to the other. You can't go from a couch potato to a gym rat. It's not very practical. You got to work yourself into it. Even if you're mentally ready, you're probably not physically ready. You jump into that workout regimen, and mentally you think you're there, but physically you get injured. Your body is not accustomed to that type of exertion on a regular basis. Same thing with MGTOW. It may be too extreme for you. You may try it for a month or two, but then revert back to your old way of living. Why? Because that original method of thinking was not very practical. You have to have a practical application. You have to have a practical diet. People are doing the intermittent fasting now. I wonder how long that will last. In civilization, not even civilizations, but in communities of antiquity, prior to the advent of civilization even, humans were hunter-gatherers. We inadvertently, intermittently fasted because there wasn't always available food. We had to really work for our food. We had to kill something or find something before we can actually eat. You didn't have the option of being gluttonous. And on top of that, you were always on your feet. You were nomadic. Not only did that keep your activity level up, but it kept your mind occupied besides just sitting around thinking about eating yourself. But now we attempt to apply intermittent fasting, but we're not as active as you once were. We're sitting around the house, sitting around watching TV, seeing commercials with food on them, and you trying to intermittently fast. Not very practical. Let's see how long that lasts. Now, if you've already been fasting before, and now you're going to fast more frequently, well, you've already built yourself up to it. It was a gradual progression. But to jump in it head first, setting yourself up for failure, I think. So this is the reason why I say practical application for MGTOW, because a lot of the applications of MGTOW right now are not very practical. Crash dieting. That's essentially what you're doing. Instead of looking at an actual lifestyle change that can persist throughout the perpetuity of your life. Something that you can carry on from now until infinity. A culture that you can pass on to your offspring if you choose to have them. Something that actually works. Not something that's so repulsive that you do it for a month, but then you're not interested in it anymore. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's why I was speaking earlier about my personal journey is, I'm slowly but surely moving in the right direction, the positive direction. It's not going to happen overnight. Um, you know, it would be very toxic for someone to just, like you said, just crash and just go 1,000%. It's going to hurt you pretty bad if you do something like that, man. So anything you do, whether it's dieting, whether it's driving, whether it's whatever, I mean, if you get and do something and you just go full speed ahead without even, get 100% into it, it's not going to be a good outcome. So, and you might be in a worse position than you were before you even started. So that's what I encourage is, kind of wean your way into it. Always saturate yourself into the knowledge of it. You know, when I say that, I mean, cut out a lot of things like myself. I don't watch television anymore, man. I don't watch television anymore. I still am on the internet, of course, so I still have some type of a social media um, presence in my life. There still is, but as far as like TV and watching bullshit, I don't watch all that bullshit, man. You got to get that out of your system, you know. Um, because a lot of times that can affect you mentally and subconsciously. A lot of time it affects us when we don't even know it. We don't even know it's affecting us in a certain way if we allow that stuff to get saturated deep into the core of our thinking. So that's one thing that I did, and it's very easy to do. Is just turn the fucking TV off, man. I turn my damn TV off, and at this point where I am right now, well, I'm a contractor, so I move around a lot, but I opted to not even have a television where I am now, so it makes it a whole lot easier for me to not be in it. But yes, I do still have internet, and but as far as any social media, Facebook, I'm very limited on that. Not much on the social media, but I do. Um, you know, engulf myself in learning, reading, A lot of times I have a lot of free time, so I do a lot of reading. A lot of people that I know that don't have a lot of time, they get the ebooks, or you listen. Sometimes you can listen to a podcast, or you can listen to Facebook. I mean, listen to YouTube. You know, but it all starts with getting your mind set back into a certain way that you want to live. It's not going to happen overnight, but you got to strive toward that. You got to eliminate things along the way that's toxic to your end goal, you know, and that's what I've been trying to do. Am I there 100%? No, you know, but I'm moving in that direction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I don't watch TV, and I get that a lot with a lot of my patients. They ask me, hey, did you see the Seattle Seahawks game, or did you see, or do you watch this show, this cooking show that's on TV? And I'm like, no, I don't really watch TV. Well, what do you mean you don't really watch TV? Well, actually, I mean I don't watch TV at all. You don't watch TV at all? Wow, are you serious? Like, yeah, I don't watch TV at all. I haven't watched TV in years. And it's so surprising because I think television is an integral part of so many people's lives. Even though now the latest generation is starting to get away from TV, they're beginning to watch more internet programming. But even still, I really don't do much of that. A lot of the internet consumption that I do is really discourse, like almost like talk radio, where I don't even have to actually watch it. I'm just really listening to it. It's playing in the background. And I think the discourse is more my speed because, just that craving for knowledge. And a lot of times television is counterintuitive to, especially the programming that's on TV now. A lot of the reality TV, I mean, I think is actually detrimental. It may actually be harmful. I don't have any definitive data on that, but I think that type of television can actually be harmful because it mimics true life. So it gives you a distorted view of reality, and subconsciously it programs you. This is just my personal opinion. Again, I have no facts to substantiate my claim, but this is just a thought that I have when I see a lot of the reality television, that that is out today. And so that's part of the reason why I really have straight up that's part of the reason it's been so easy for me to abstain from television, because the programming that's on TV I don't think is of high quality anyway. But I think that for me, I grew up in a household. My father was a spender, still is a spender. He's always been a spender, and so I grew up like that. Like a spender. Even in most of my life, I've been a spender. Even though I've worked very hard, it's not like I've compromised myself as far as resource gathering. But I did spend a lot of my resources. I spent a lot of money in my lifetime, and I did it for so long. It was kind of conditioning to me, and that's something that I work on every day. Is to fight the urge to spend money, because a lot of times what I do, most of what I do isn't necessarily for the attention of women, and that's the difference. Is that a lot of the stuff I buy, women are not going to care about it. It's not going to be of interest to women at all. Like I like to buy guns, firearms. I'm a firearm avid. I'm an avid firearm owner because I was in the military for about 8 years, and so I got accustomed to and comfortable with firearms, and so I own firearms, and firearms are costly. So is ammo. Ammo is very costly. So those some of the indulgences I have is with firearms and things of that nature. And I like clothes. I actually like jewelry. As you can see by my avatar. But that's pretty much the only piece of jewelry I have. Besides, I have some earrings and I have some watches, but I don't have a lot of jewelry like that. But I still have an interest in jewelry, and there's just consumption in general. And so that's one of the things that I work to abstain from, in my MGTOW kind of journey. Beyond that, women. Not necessarily that I'm abstaining from women. I just have more discretion, as I said earlier. The women I choose to spend time with, they have to be special, and it's not necessarily just a physical component to it. There's other aspects that I look for. Obviously, you want to be physically attracted to the woman, but there has to be something more substantial than just physical appearance alone. And so that's where I'm at as far as MGTOW and how it pertains to me. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that, Brian? We have Carly Ellison saying she's canceling her Amazon Prime subscription. Now, Carly, now I got to ask you about the Amazon Prime subscription, because remember, the Amazon Prime comes with shipping. So my Amazon Prime subscription that I have for the video component, it is basically tied to my Amazon shipping, because I do buy a lot of products from Amazon.com. And so the actual Amazon Prime Video automatically comes with it, as does a I guess I could say an altered version, or a light version of Amazon Prime Music as well. So with your Amazon Prime subscription, you can get your Amazon Prime shipping, 2-day shipping. You get your Amazon Prime Video that you can watch almost like Netflix, and then you have your Amazon Music as well.
It worked for shipping,
but it made it easy to find stuff that I don't need. Well, I
mean, hey, let me tell you a story real quick, man.
Okay, I'm listening.
Just a kind of a funny story when it comes to women and spending.
Okay.
I used to live in Atlanta, Georgia. And so this was I would say this was around maybe 2007, 2006 time period.
So basically you missed the Freaknik era.
No, I've been to Freaknik. Freaknik was in the 90s, and I went the Freaknik was going on when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
So I actually went to 2 different Freakniks, and that's a whole nother story. But this particular situation happened in the like around 2006, 2007 time period. But I was in Atlanta, and I was dating several women. 2 of them happened to be strippers.
Hello.
And so one of the girls that I was dating, she was a star. When I tell you she was a star, man. I mean, stacked. She was nice. So this chick had a super nice house, drove a Benz. I mean, just balling. You would think in this day and era, you would call her balling. Mm-hmm. This chick had a 16. I mean, just one of her purses that I knew of. Well, she had several of them, but there was one purse I couldn't tell you the name of it. But this purse, she paid $16,000 for a purse.
I can tell you right now, if it's a $16,000 purse, I'm betting it's a Hermes.
I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like a Hermes bag.
Probably. And this is back in 2006, 2007. I had no idea that purses even. I mean, now of course I know that, but back then I'm like, I didn't even know purses even cost that much.
Yeah.
Well, this girl calls me one day, and she has the audacity to ask me for $100, yo. Hey, I need you. I'm like, what's going on? I need $100. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I just need it until Friday when I get paid. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought you. And this was maybe like a Wednesday. I said, but don't you work? You get paid every night. I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? You're a stripper. I mean, when you at the end of your shift, you got dollars, right? Well, that's not how it works. Blah, blah, blah. Look, I need the $100 now. I'm gonna come get it. I'm like, but don't you run around with $16,000 purses? But that was the mentality of a lot of women in that day and age, and I'm probably sure now as well. I mean, if they got $20,000, they're gonna spend 19,000 on the purse. You know what I'm saying? You know, because this chick asked me for $100. She didn't ask me for 500, 1,000, 2,000, 20,000. She asked me for $100. So that means she didn't have it.
Well, no, Carly in the chat said that she was just testing you. Did you think about that? Did you think about the possibility of her testing your temperature, see where your temperature at?
Possibly, but $100? Come on, she know I had $100.
Yeah,
I gave it to.
It's not about you having $100. Is will you give it to her?
That's true. That's true. And I did. I gave it to her. I did.
You gave it to her?
Yeah, I gave it to her.
Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I gave it to her.
Oh, okay.
Because it really wasn't. I mean, she called me with this story, and I'm like, what? And you know, I sneezed and spent $100. I mean, I'm like, okay, come get it. Come get it. You know, ain't no big deal. If you really needed that bad, come get it. I don't see how, because you got money, but you know, but she gave me this story about how she lost this money and her accounts was like, I mean, she just went through this whole situation with this money situation. I'm like, really? Whatever, you know. But that's how she was. And that's how all the females that I knew girls that worked at Hooters. By the way, back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then, most Hooters girls and most strippers was on that powder, you know what I'm saying? On that booger sugar, you know what I'm saying? Back in the day. I don't know how it is now, man, but back in the day, man, they was on that there, you know. And like I said, that was another component too. I'm like, man, did this girl spend all her money on coke? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what's going on, but you know, but yeah, man, that's just kind of give you an idea, man. But you know, you really gotta, you know, take that and put it into perspective. But a lot of times, most people that ask me for money is women. You know, I'm like, man, you got a job, you're a nurse, you do this, you do that. I mean, what's going on with your finances when you can't? You gotta ask someone. You gotta ask a friend. You got family. You burned your family so many times you can't even ask your family anymore. You know, you gotta ask somebody that you just, you know, that you just a friend or just you know, somebody you know. You gave your number to him 2 weeks ago, and y'all went out on 2 dates, and now you want to ask him for $100 or $300 or $500? Come on, man.
You know, it's crazy because you know women never ask me for money, and I think maybe it's because I look broke. I drive a Toyota 4Runner, so they probably like, well, he ain't got no damn money anyway. Like, he got a 4Runner, he ain't got no damn money.
Carly called me a simp, man. Yes, I'll admit I was simping back then. I was a super simp.
Oh yeah, I think we've all had an episode at some point in time in our life, you know. But it's you know, sometimes the problem with some simps are they don't know they're simps because they haven't had a wake up call yet.
Exactly. And at that point, I didn't have a wake up call. I thought I was a man. You know what I mean? You know.
So if you as a simp, you know, have never had a bad experience with simping, then you're not necessarily going to be inclined to actually stop it because it's like, well, you know, it serves me well, you know. I'm able to maintain the affections of women and the admiration of women that I spend money on. So, you know, because a lot of times the disrespect may not be blatant, like a woman may not respect you for you know, for quote unquote simping, but you know, you may never know as a man because, you know, when she's in your presence, she always has a certain, you know, a certain disposition towards you. But maybe when she's around her friends, she's like laughing at you, like, yeah, this sucker, he bought me this, he bought me that. You know, they may not necessarily respect you, you know, in your absence, you know, but you know, in their presence, they put on the front for you. So that's something to think about as well. But yeah, like, you know, for me, I had an experience not quite like yours, but I guess like one of the how many I guess maybe I don't know if it was a wake up call, but because historically I had never been the type to buy stuff for women because a lot of times, especially when I was younger, I was spending all the money that I made. So every dollar I got, I was either buying clothes, I was buying jewelry, I was buying stuff for my car, buying a car, buying rims, sound system, things of that nature. So I was always tapped out. So the thought never crossed my mind to give a woman money because I didn't have any money to give. But I remember one time I was in Louisiana. This is when I was in the military. And I was stationed in Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I was in this was in the Leesville area. So at the time, we're talking like 2003. So this particular area of Louisiana was very, very, very small town. We're talking about like basically a shotgun town. The town maybe had Leesville maybe had 3,000 people. DeRitter maybe had 10,000 people, and those were the two bigger cities or towns, whatever you want to call them, in the area. Now you had Alexandria, Louisiana, which was about 45 minutes away, and then you had Lake Charles, Louisiana, which was about 45 to an hour away. But other than that, these were the small towns, and they're like small little towns that maybe had 300 people, interdispersed throughout the area. So it was a real small town feel. And so your options as far as women were concerned were very limited because you had a small town. And a lot of women there that were there were already married to military men. So your options were rather limited. So you go to the club and you see the same women over and over again. And, when you saw a new woman, you're like, oh, wow. So I remember going to this club. I can't remember what this club was called. But anyways, I go to this club. It wasn't a club that I went to very frequently, but this particular night I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this club. So I went to this club. I was with some of my friends. And there was this girl. I never seen her before. And I don't even remember if she was very attractive. She probably wasn't even all that attractive. But I'd never seen her before. She looked like a new face. I'm like, okay, let me go talk to her. So I go up to her and I start talking to her, whatever. And then at some point in the conversation, she's like, can you either, I don't know how she asked me, but she asked me to buy her a drink. I don't know how she asked the question. Maybe she said, can you buy me a drink? Or are you planning on buying me a drink or something to that effect? But at any rate, it kind of surprised me because at this point, I never bought a drink from anybody before, for anybody. And plus I was from California. And so being in California, it was like a certain mindset that even if men were lying about it, everybody, the whole thing was, no simping, everybody want to be like elite, act like a pimp, like they don't spend money on women. That was the mindset. Now, was everybody honest when they portrayed themselves in that light? Most likely not. A lot of guys lied about, their interactions with women and portrayed themselves in a certain light, but in actuality, they were simping on the low. But at any rate, it kind of conditioned me, to a certain extent, to not really, want to spend money on women because it was a sign of weakness. And so with that mindset, when she told me that, it was like, man, am I gonna buy her a drink or what? Like, I don't know. But then I was looking at her like, man, this is the desperation kicked in. Like, this is a new woman. I'm in this small town. I hate it here. I'm in the military, and I can't go nowhere because I got to stay here. This is my duty station for right now. But here's a new woman that I think, she looks new. I've never seen her around these parts before. She probably don't got no track record out here. She looked halfway decent. Let me just buy her a drink. And I remember the drink. She asked me to buy her a Long Island iced tea. And I don't drink personally. I've never been a drinker. So I just went up to the bar and I was like, yeah, can I get a Long Island iced tea? And they gave me this big ass drink and this big old glass. I'm like, damn, this is a big old drink. And I remember it was in 2003. I still remember this drink was $9. And I thought that was a lot of money. I don't know if that was a lot of money for a Long Island iced tea at the time, but to me, that was a lot of damn money for a damn drink. And I was like, okay, hold up for a second. So the bartender gave me the drink. I gave them money. And I got my little dollar back change. And I went up to the girl. She was like right there by me, and I just gave her the drink. And she's all, thank you. And she just walked off. I was like, yo, what the fuck? I'm like, thinking, like, where's she going? Like, soon as she got the drink, she just walked off into the crowd. Thanks, and walked off. Like, like it was like a real, like so arrogant. Like, yeah, thanks for the drink, bye. And she walked off. And so then I looked at my friends; they was busting up laughing, and they wasn't at the distance where they could hear me, but I'm sure they could see exactly what happened. This girl taking the drink from me, saying thanks, and just walking off. So at this point, I'm pissed off and I'm heated, whatever, right? And so I'm over by my friends, and I'm talking about they are clowning the hell out of me, laughing, joking, because they're all older than me. So I'm sure at some point in their life they've already made that mistake. And so they were just laughing at me and they're just making fun of me relentlessly. Just like kept going and wouldn't stop. And so I'm getting more and more upset. I'm pissed off at this point. So I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm like, where's this girl at? And as soon as I said that, I see her kind of walking past. So I walk up to this girl. I grab that drink that I just bought her out of her hand that she was sipping on. And when I grabbed it, she had this shock, like her hand stayed in the same spot. Like it's almost like she was in shock that I took the drink from her. I took that drink from her. Now, mind you, I don't drink. So I just poured it on the ground. And when I poured it on the ground, she got so upset. She like, what the fuck? And she was cussing and shit like that. And I guess a security guard saw me. And he was like, yo, what are you doing? And like, he was like mad that I poured the drink on the ground, whatever, right? And he was trying to kick me out, whatever, right? And I was trying to explain to her, like, no, man, I bought this drink for her, and she just walked off from me. And then the security guard started laughing at me, or the bouncer, whatever. He started laughing at me when I was explaining what happened. He was like, man, just go over there, man. But you can't be doing that no more, blah, 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 you know? And so that was the last time I have ever bought a drink for a random woman, ever. I've never, ever bought a drink for a random woman again. That's never been part of my approach. And I know you have some guys, especially some of the older school guys. For instance, TK Kirkland. Shout out to TK Kirkland. He's a comedian. And he has I think it's called the TK Kirkland Show, a podcast. And on one of his recent interviews with the Breakfast Club, he said, hey, you're supposed to buy a woman a drink, for their time and blah, blah, blah. And, I just don't agree with that. I respect him. I still like his comedy. And, whenever I see an appearance with him, I'm definitely trying to check it out. But I just don't agree with that sentiment of me having to buy a drink for a woman just because of her time. Like, I buy a drink for a woman if we've already established some sort of rapport. Just like I would buy a drink for one of my friends. You see what I'm saying? Like if me and you went out somewhere, even though I don't drink, I'd be like, yo, you want something to drink? And I'll go to the bar and get you something to drink. It's like, because we have a rapport. It's different. I'm not buying a drink just because I want to be in a woman's company. See, and I think that's where the disconnect has occurred over the centuries in our development of culture in the United States, is that somehow we as men have valued the company of a woman over our own value. We somehow think women are doing us a favor by spending time with us. And part of the reason why we think this way is because we have to vie for the affections of women. We have to court women. We have to prove ourselves to women. And so subconsciously, we program ourselves to think that the women are the prize. But all along, we've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. In actuality, you as the man
Carter
are the
said we
problem.
deserve and are entitled to drinks and attention.
Who
What do you
said
think
that?
about that? That's what Carter just said. I
Oh,
just
she was
read
trolling. I don't believe that.
it.
Got to be trolling because now, like I said, if you establish a rapport now, like I'm not a tyrant. I think if you establish a rapport with anyone, man or woman, like even your friend, like, and this is what I don't understand. Like as men, if you as a man are out with your friends, male friends, right? It should be no problem for you as a man to like next round of drinks on me. Buy a round of drinks for your friend because they're the ones that actually hold you down. They're gonna be the ones that are gonna be there before you meet that girl, and after that girl kicks you to the curb. But you
She said
devote.
she was just kidding.
I know she was. I know she was. I know she was. But yeah, I think that you as a man, you are actually the prize if you're a quality man. Now here's the key with MGTOW men. You as a MGTOW man, you should be refocusing your energies to ensure that you are a quality man worth working for. See, you can't just rest on your laurels and say because of my manhood, I'm entitled to a certain type of woman. Because again, that's women's mentality. That's what women do. They think that because of their womanhood, they're entitled to a certain quality and level of man. But that's not the case. We as men, we have to develop ourselves mentally and economically. We can't afford to rest on our laurels. We have to develop ourselves. And so this is the reason why we refocus our energies to make sure that we're a quality man worth working for. And I believe that once you've established yourself as a quality man, naturally, you will have more discretion. Naturally, you will choose wisely the circle of friends you keep. Or at least I would hope. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, man. And you know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. You're exactly right, man. And like I said, it's a process. And another thing as well that I always like to say, and that's always helped me out, is the beauty is in the setup. If you setting yourself up, kind of like me when I made mistakes. I made mistakes because with women because I was setting myself up for failure from the beginning. I used to buy drinks and money just wasn't an object, and just going out, just doing whatever, just having fun, and just because at the end of the night, I just wanted to go home. I'm trying to have a one night stand. I'm trying to pimp, whatever you want to call it. I'm thinking I'm pimping. Because I'm thinking just because she think I got money that, oh yeah, I can get it. And it worked sometimes, but more times than none it didn't. But that's all I had to go by at the time because my mind frame, my mindset was so fucked up that that's all I knew. That's all my friends around me was doing. That's all I was doing. So, you know, I was setting myself up for failure, back in those days. And like I said, as I've grown older, I've changed, and I have more wisdom now, and I move a little bit different. Am I perfect? Hell no, I'm not perfect. But I'm not the same person I was 7, 8, 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. You know, I'm constantly, you know, progressing and changing my mindset and moving in the right direction that I feel in my spirit is the right direction to go. And I advise my brothers out there to do the same thing. You know, change your mindset. Listen to, you know, listen. You know, set yourself up now. You know, we live in a society, and it took me years to figure this out, man. We live in a society of the right now, you know, like Burger King, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, you want your stuff, you want it now, but you can't have that mindset. You have to, things are not going to happen for you overnight. You know, it's like the lottery. You ain't just, the odds you win the lottery, you know, is so far fetched. I don't even see why people even play the lottery. But it's just that mentality. You know, you think it's going to your life is going to change overnight. It's not going to happen. So you need to start making decisions now for the future. You know, just like with saving money. You know, when I was saving money, when I first started saving money, I started saving $10 here, $5 here, $20 here, $100 here, because you know after 6, 7 months, I'm like, damn, man, I got a nice little amount of money saved up. But I couldn't just save $5,000 in one day. It don't happen like that, you know. And if you go back, like I did, and look at your past statements on your bank, and you look at where all your money went, it didn't all go away at one time. It was $20 here, $10 here. You went out for the weekend, you paid $10 to park. You spent $40 in drinks. You got a hotel room, that was $150. You know what I mean? I mean, you ate breakfast the next morning. I mean, it adds up. And if you add it all up, it adds up to a lot. So I flipped it. In my situation, I flipped it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna start saving small amounts, whatever I can save. And like I said, one thing about it, you can. I don't care what you got going on. I don't care who you are. You ain't stopping time. You are not stopping time. Time gonna go. So use it to your advantage, and just know, have the mindset. You know, time is gonna go. It's gonna move. So make the decision to make some changes, because if you make the small changes now and stick with it and make it a habit and set it up properly, next thing you know, man, you'll be in a better situation. So that's what happened to me, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've gotten considerably better at saving my money because, like I said, historically I've been a spender, and you know, but I thought that I was doing something. You know, well, you know, I got money. You know, in case I miss a check, I got that in the bank. You know, and I thought that was really doing something. You know, some time ago. Uh, but there was a situation where I got an accusation at some point, which was later, you know, unfounded. But you know, at that point, I thought about what if I lost my job right now? You know, if I lost my job, what situation would I be in? I would have to go live back with my parents right away. I wouldn't have enough money to last very long. You know, I would have to break my lease and all kind of stuff. You know, so now I'm at the point where, you know, I make sure I have enough money in the bank where, you know, if I lost my job, I'm good for 6 months. You know, I could stretch it and be good for a year if I really got, you know, got frugal about it. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that's the point that we as men have to be at. And you know, MGTOW isn't for everybody. Not everybody's going to be MGTOW. You know, not everybody's going to diet. Some people are just going to live life on the edge. But if you're at a critical point in your life, then you may have to bite the bullet and make that sacrifice, at least temporarily. Like if you're at the position where if you lost your job right now, you'd be homeless. And you got to think about it. 45% of homeless people are actually employed. And a lot of people don't know that. I'm in the Seattle greater metropolitan area. Homelessness is an epidemic out here. If you've never been to Seattle, you may not be aware of it, but let me tell you, and it's crazy, as much as it rains out here, I don't understand how somebody can be homeless. Be wet all the time. It's crazy. But there is a lot of homeless people out here in Seattle area. And people think that because they're homeless, they're all drug addicts, they're all strung out, they're all lazy and all this other stuff, which there may be. Obviously, there's going to be people who fit that mold. But 45% of people, statistically speaking, are actually employed that are homeless. So how are they homeless if they have a job? Most people haven't provisioned. That's why. You make one mistake and you're evicted. That's how quick it can happen. That's the reason why MGTOW at least is applicable to most people, most men. Because most men aren't in a position financially to weather the storm. So if it's not a lifestyle for you, at least it's a temporary diet that you should consider. At least consider the possibility of making adjustments to your lifestyle that will allow you to be in a position where at least if something unforeseen happens, say even a natural disaster, where you're unable to have access to your finances, or you're unable to work. Maybe you have a job where you need to have access. You need to actually work. They may say, "Oh, well, work is canceled," because of flooding or because of down power lines or whatever the case may be as a result of a natural disaster. I mean, there's so many possibilities that can occur. Even to say the job that you're working for, they may suddenly go out of business. It can happen. If you're an entrepreneur, some catastrophic event happens. You have to have some money set aside, and you can't do that if you're so completely focused on women, or you've taken such a crash diet, as in far as MGTOW is concerned, you've immersed yourself so much that you're spending money just to find ways to keep your mind off of sex. So you're either, spending all kind of money on PlayStation games and maybe even streaming media content, or for some men, their interpretation of MGTOW, they feel it's okay to even indulge in prostitutes. But at either rate, you're spending a lot of money that you don't have, money that you should be provisioning for the future with. So when I say, a practical application of MGTOW, it could look entirely different depending on, each person's individual situation. Maybe you're like, what, man, I don't need to be MGTOW. Some people think MGTOW is something specifically for loser men who are unable to attract women. Some people think MGTOW is synonymous with incel, involuntarily celibate, which is not necessarily the case. There may be some MGTOW who are actually incel. But I think MGTOW has an application for men who have not reached that level in life where they can afford to be reckless to a certain extent. Every man at some point in their life should at least go through a MGTOW phase sooner rather than later. Get yourself to a point where you have some semblance of a safety net, as every man should. That's part of being a man, being accountable and being responsible. If you lost your job right now and you would either be homeless or B, back at home with your mom, you are not exuding masculinity. You are not personifying manhood. You have a lot of work to do. And tomorrow, actually today, later on today, around 8 o'clock, for you guys tuning into the broadcast and those of you who catch the restream, around 8 o'clock this morning, we'll be back on the broadcast and we'll be discussing travel and how that applies, how that correlates to being MGTOW. We'll get into the specifics tomorrow, but for those of you interested, please tune in tomorrow, or actually tune in later on today. I'm looking at Carly in the chat; she's in there trolling again. But if you tune in later on today around 8 o'clock, actually, if you look at my page, you'll see an actual link for the impending broadcast. So this link is active, but there's nothing streaming at that point on that particular page. But that's just like a reminder, a place setter, so that way you know that later on there's going to be an actual stream, and we're going to be talking about traveling. So for those of you in the chat, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, so that way you can stay abreast of any new developments on this particular platform. And at this point, I'm going to go to Brian here and see if he has any closing statements before we get out of here.
No, man, just want to say thank you, man, for allowing me to talk, man, and kind of give my input on my personal situation, things that I've been through. And I'm a big, giving my personal stories, and in hopes that it will help someone from avoiding, or if it's something positive, going down that road that I went down, or avoiding that road that I went down if it was a negative situation. And that's what I always want to do, because it's helped me out over the years, man, listening to people that have been down a certain path, and they give me a warning, tell me about it. But you gotta be open-minded, and you gotta be, open to what someone is talking to you about, and at least give it a try, and not be, so negative when it comes to avoiding certain things someone tells you to do. You know what I'm saying? That's about it. That's all I got, bro.
Thank you, Brian. It's always a pleasure having some discourse with you. I do look forward to many more Hangouts, Google Hangouts here. And for all those in the chat, Mr. Frogbox or Mr. or Mrs. Frogbox asked Pacific or Eastern time. So that would be Pacific time. I'm in the Seattle area. So let's see here. According to my clock, it's 12:49 a.m. where I'm at. And so in approximately 7 hours, I'll be back on the stream again. And one of our guest speakers is going to be Splash from Head Above Water. He has a channel on YouTube as well. He's based in Thailand. He's an actual American, but he's based in Thailand. And he has some insight on travel to Asia and actually living in Asia, because he currently lives in Thailand now. And myself, I've had some experience. I lived in Europe briefly. Brian has been to Europe. And so essentially we're going to be talking about Europe in particular tomorrow, hence the title, Europa Utopia. And we're just going to be discussing, Europe, in depth. Head Above Water, Splash from Head Above Water is going to be asking some questions, because he's considering moving to Europe from Thailand and relocating. And we're just going to basically go into depth and talk about Thailand and, from a man's perspective. So again, thanks everybody for tuning into this stream, and look forward to seeing you all again later on today. Good night.
Good night.